Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Campion, and this is the Miracle of Healing. Gosh, we're super glad to have you with us today. So, welcome to the show if you're just tuning in, and welcome back if you've been following along for a while. Today, I'm welcoming Claudiu Murgan. He's an author, speaker, and host of the Spiritually Inspired podcast. And I've been on his podcast. It's really, it was so beautiful and so fun. And his work weaves together spirituality, consciousness, creativity, and the deeper questions of what it means to grow and evolve as humans. Through both his fiction and nonfiction writing, Claudiu explores intuition, inner wisdom, and the interconnectedness of all life. His podcast and healing work reflects that same commitment to awakening and transformation, offering really grounded conversations and practices that support people on their spiritual path. So I'm so excited to dive in here and talk about his journey as a writer, his spiritual evolution, and the inspiration behind his healing and podcast work. Claudiu, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me, Lisa, to be on your wonderful podcast.
So let's talk a little bit about your journey. I always like to start with that to find out a little bit more about you and what brought you here and what brought you to this moment where we're talking about this today.
Yes, I think like most of us, I've been on the rat race cycle up until 45 years young. And only then I realized that I have to change my focus from building a career and chasing money towards something which is much more meaningful, much more fulfilling. And that came from the idea that I have to go back to writing, which I stopped for about 20 years. So when I reached 45, I went back to my early passion, and I went back to ideas that really stir my imagination. And this is how my first book came out, The Decadence of Our Soul, a fantasy book, followed by Water Entanglement and Crystal Cloud, both based on my fascination with water. And everything evolved from there, realizing that spiritual path is something that I have to step on and go deeper within, find my connection with God, know myself, and bring more happiness, joy in my life and in the life of other people. So then in 2020, when COVID started, I realized that I cannot go out to book fairs and interact with my readers. And I said to myself, I have to find a new way to enlarge my audience and my visibility. So this is when I started the Spiritual Inspired podcast in April 2020. And I can tell you it was a wonderful journey. I don't know how it is for you, but it enriched my life. I met more than 200 authors, spiritual teachers, empaths, channelers, doctors, shamans. So it's been a very enriching journey for me to learn from every single one, you included. And all that experience was put into book format last year. I was asked, why don't you take some of your interviews and categorize them in a book format? And that idea came to fruition last year in April, and now I'm working on a trilogy. The first one was Alternative Methods of Healing. It's over there. The first volume. The second volume will come out in a month. It's called The Light Within the Mind, and touches on psychology, channeling, and mediumship. And then the third volume will be out maybe October, November of this year, about shamanism and sacred plant medicine. So again, this opportunity of starting the podcast and looking at various ways of healing and talking to so many intelligent and experienced people gave me the depth the spiritual depth to find what I was looking for. Of course, this path is never ending, but we have to all these certain milestones as we go along.
Wow, yeah, I wonder if we we should talk about like podcasting as a spiritual pathway, right? Because that's definitely true for me. Like I've been podcasting since 2017. I don't know how many I've done, but I think it's like in the 300s, 300 or somewhere up there. And I feel like for me, podcasting is kind of a part of my spiritual exploration, spiritual journey, and I learn so much from my podcast guests. I meet so incredible people that I wouldn't normally be able to meet, and also learn things. And for me, there's some kind of like magic that happens with a podcast where my guests often has the solution to whatever my current issue is, whatever I'm pondering in my own mind. There's some synergy or alchemy that happens with that. So I don't know. What do you think? Is podcasting a spiritual pathway?
It is a spiritual pathway, depending on your end goal. I mean, you can start as like myself, as I mentioned, just a way of growing your audience and readership. But then you realize that it's much more than that. And it's also based on how are you going to treat every single guest. If you do your job properly, when I say job is between air quotes, like you research your guest, you read a book he wrote or she wrote, you listen to 2 or 3 previous podcasts, and you write down different questions. You have to come up with something new. You have to bring out of your guest something that he or she never thought about, and she will just pause and think and say, wow. And I had many guests who said, oh, you know what, no one asked me this question before. And that gave me the satisfaction that I did my research properly. And most of my guests wanted to come back. I had people who came back 4 times, 3-4 times on the podcast, because they enjoyed the discussion. And when they promoted their episode, the feedback they received was so good that they said, you know what, I have to do it again. So that's why initially I mentioned that it's a two-way learning curve. And I go into every single discussion with an open mind, an open heart, very curious to see what is my guest point of view. And I'll give you an example. The other day, I interviewed Tony Sayers. He's from UK, living in Mexico right now. And while he wrote books and he does healing, he works with inner child, he goes out and debunks other spiritual healers or spiritual people in the spiritual community. And he finds gaps in their story, in their thinking. And he did that with some of my previous guests. And for me to invite him, it was an act of courage. And I told him that from the beginning. I said, look, I might not agree with everything you say, but I wanted to go deeper into your point of view because you debunk some of my guests. And I won't give names, but, let's have this discussion. And again, I didn't try to corner him. I didn't try to antagonize him. I just went in with a curious mind to see how his mindset fits into the whole spiritual community and spirituality in general.
Wow, that's so interesting. I do love that, and I think there's a there's a strong connection between authors and podcasts. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a whole bunch of us out there writing books, writing podcasts, and that it's, to me, what's beautiful about that connection is supporting each other. I feel like we come together and as a community build some energy around the work that we're all doing, and even that, the person you were talking about holding the energy of the skeptic is an important, part of sort of the collective work that we're putting into the world. And I feel like that work is amplified when we come together as a group, and not just from a marketing perspective, like, oh, I'm going to get more followers, but more from that, I don't know, turning the volume up on the conversation a little bit.
Yes, and I proud myself to be the bridge and the hub of my guests. I mean, if I know and I have the intuition that two of my guests can, they have to get together because there are some projects they can work on and be successful,
Mm,
I will make that connection right away.
well, that's cool.
Now with the new media platform I released in December, Auraverse Network, I interview podcasters, those who want to be on the platform. And in the end, I tell them, even if you don't decide to sign up with us, just let me know how can I help you in your journey. And I will do that, no strings attached, because I think this is my purpose and my goal, to help as many people as possible reach the goal they have in mind. So again,
Mm,
to me, if you are part of my tribe or not, doesn't matter. I will help you regardless. And I also wrote an ebook called How to Transition from Writing to Podcasting. So
wow.
also those who need help will come to me, and I'll take them through certain stages of their transition to have a successful podcast.
That's so cool. That's great. And I started podcasting just like you did, and because I was knew that I wanted to publish a book and that I would have a better chance of getting published if I already had a podcast. And I was on Empower Radio back in 2017. And here I am again back on the Empower channel. We sort of moved into video podcasting as kind of our medium. But let's talk about your Auraverse, because that seems like that seems like such an important part of what you were talking about. And I love your the heart and the vibe that you have of bringing people together, of connecting, of networking, being sort of a super connector, bringing people together. Because I mean, I'm like that too, and I think it's not everybody is. Some people in the spiritual community are very territorial. I'll tell you, nobody's more territorial than a psychic. Oh my Lord. Like I started working as a psychic when I was 19, back in the 80s. And back then the psychics were very like, I always say they were like tigers. They had big territory and no, they didn't want anybody else in their territory. And they were not interested in collaborating or doing, helping each other. And I've never been that way. I've always been, I know that we are more powerful together, and when we help each other. So I thank you for having that same kind of heart. And let's talk about Auraverse. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you and what's going on over there.
Yeah, I've been collaborating with the founders of Gnostic TV for a number of years, April and Jay Mata. And I was kind of training the new podcasters on their network. And at one point, they decided to create an affiliation program offered to a very few number of people. And I was the first one to join, to say, yes, I'm going to create my own media platform powered by you guys. When I say power, then means some of their resources are available to me. Their knowledge of running a network is available to me as well. And there is a cross promotion. We just said about collaboration is a cross promotion between our networks. So whatever goes as a symposium on my network, it will be promoted on theirs and vice versa. So those who are signing up with us, they are getting the benefit of being on two different networks. And our business model is different because we don't have a subscription model. People can come and watch almost the entire content for free. Documentaries are 50% free in a way, like you can watch 50% of any documentary for free. Then if you like it, you can rent it for a number of days or you can buy it. And we have Tiffany Howard from the US, a very talented director. She brought 5 documentaries on our network, all related to feminine archetype. And then we have on a pay-per-view model also meditations and courses. But everything else in terms of podcasts, everything is free. You don't have to pay anything. And we encourage everyone to come and check us out, because we offer a full package for those who don't know how to edit a video, promote a video, do any graphics. We offer all these as a package. So all they have to do is, like in this case, like us today, you record your episode and you send it over to us. And from there, we do everything else. And you tell us when we have to schedule the episode. We'll do the shorts. You'll get all the links to promote. We'll promote on our end. And to me, I felt that this is the organic next step in my evolution as like spiritual evolution, business evolution, because I really enjoy doing what I'm doing. I mean, who will do 4 interviews a day back to back and have the same joy at the end of the day? I did that.
Wow,
I
that's
wasn't
amazing.
sure if I'll be able to go through the whole day, but I did it. And I'm going
Wow.
back to the practice of preparing. I prepared in advance. So when I showed in front of the camera, I was relaxed. I knew what I'm doing. The questions were there, and was just record, nothing else. And the same with the second and the third and the fourth. So yeah, you get a little bit tired, but if your mind frame is there and you are prepared, everything is a breeze.
That's amazing. I love that so much. I think in in writing in the world of writers, authors, they have some people that plan, the planners, and then they have some people they call the pantsers. The pantsers fly by the seat of their pants. And it sounds like you're a planner. I'm more of a pantser. I mean, I do my prep too, but I feel like sometimes the energy of the conversation takes things in a direction you don't expect.
And I agree with you, but I
Yeah.
want to have something to start the conversation with.
Yeah.
Sometimes I might not get to ask half of the questions I prepared, but at the
Right.
same time, I want to be prepared because I had guests who told me, wow, I'm impressed. I had an interview yesterday, and the interviewer asked me, what do you want to talk about? And she had no idea what I'm doing. She didn't even read a line about me. So I was so embarrassed. So I don't want to embarrass my guests.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you were to give advice to somebody who wanted to start a podcast, where do you start? Because it seems like there the world is full of podcasters, and maybe somebody would throw up their hands and say there's who cares about what I have to say about anything, which I don't think is true. And the same thing for writing books. We can give the same argument for book writing. Why should I write a book? Why should I do a podcast? And I think everybody has a voice. Everybody has something important to say. Everybody has something the world should hear, right? So what would you where do you start if somebody's listening to this and they think they might want to start their own podcast?
I mean, you are right that each of us has his own experience in the world in terms of what we faced as personal challenges. So first of all, you have to decide, is this going to be a podcast about interviewing others, or it's a monologue, or is a combination? There are these 3 options. You have these 3 options. So you have to decide. Right now on Auraverse, we have both. We have podcasters who do monologues for now, and others who do the interviews. I have 2 podcasts on my own network, and I do interviews. And one is the Spiritually Inspired. The other one is Chief Consciousness Officer, is another program I started last year with some of my guests, 4 experts on energy healing and breath work. And we are going after the CEOs and leaders who need this type of healing.
Wow.
But
Beautiful.
going back to the advice, after you decide what type of podcast you want to put out there, check the technical stuff you need, like the mic, the camera. You have a laptop or a computer. Start small if you don't have the budget, and then good lighting, good background. I evolved from a white wall to what you see behind me right now, from a green screen to a 3-dimensional studio right now. But it's an evolution. And if you go from and check episode 1, the thumbnail of episode 1 to episode 252, you will see that evolution. and there is nothing to be ashamed of. This was my level at that time, the level of the sound, the background, preparation. But you learn, and
Yeah.
I didn't spend time to learn at that time. I just jumped into it. I had
Mhm.
the name of the podcast, the thumbnail, and everything else done in 3 days. Because sometimes, again, I prep on certain circumstances, but on others, I just jump all in and see what happens.
That's great. I love that so much. Wow. Let's talk a little bit about your books because I know that's also something that's so beautiful. And it seems to me that you write books that have really deep spiritual messages inside of them. That's sort of embedded in the story. Is that how you do it?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I'm very proud of The Decadence of Our Souls. This is my first book. It started with an amazing idea that came to me when I was 18 years old. I mean, it was just unbelievable that I remember all that after like 25 years later. And it's about a community of children and elephants living deep in the jungle, where the elephants are the teachers and the children are being born through the trees of life,
Mm,
girls, boys in different castes. Each of them has their own journey in that community and their purpose in that community. But in the end, the elephants want them to achieve enlightenment. And then outside, you have the decadent society: drugs, booze, sex, instant, uh, instant, what's the word?
gratification. Yeah.
Gratification. Yes, thank you. And then they hear about this community, this special community, and they kidnap one of the children, which is supposed to be very special. And they try to emulate his meditation and what he's doing so they can get enlightened. In fact, they want to get high, not enlightened. They don't understand the concept. So
Mm,
I describe the tug of war between the mentality of the child and the decadent world, and what's going on, and how he gets hurt, and how everyone is being changed in this process. But towards the end of the novel, God has a solution for everyone, and I'm not going to reveal that solution. But if you go to my website, claudiumurgan.com, and you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get it for free.
Oh, wow,
um,
that's great.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So please.
I wanted to just ask, to say the name of your website again, so how can people get your books?
They can go to myname.com, claudiumurgan.com, and from there they can branch out into my personal store, soulawakeningstore.com,
Mm,
spiritualinspired.ca, which is the podcast, and auraverse.network, which is the media platform.
right.
And
Wow.
going back to the books, I mean, water fascinated me, and I just started to write Water Entanglement right after I published The Decadence. And it was
Mm,
so fast, and the idea came to me like I was channeling them. And water was a main component in the story. It came alive, it started to punish us for our misdeeds. And when I finish it, after I finish it and publish it, I realized that it's not finished. There are certain threads which were not totally clarified. And I started volume 2, Crystal Cloud, which takes us deeper into the story of crystal implants and the Shungite clouds, and how water works with technology. And a while back, I started volume 3 as a diary, but I put that on hold because of alternative methods of healing and the spiritual inspired related trilogy. But
mm.
hopefully, sometime this year or next, I will finish this volume as well, and then we'll see what's next on the writing side. But in the meanwhile, I published 2 anthologies, short stories of my own knowledge keepers, and another one, Love Letters to Water, which
Wow.
contains stories from 34 authors from 14 countries, including India, Ghana, Cameroon, New Zealand, Australia, France, UK, Canada, US. So it was a very interesting anthology.
Well, your ideas are so creative and so I think brilliant. Like you've got a streak of brilliance in there in the way that you blend deep spiritual knowledge with stories so I think the stories help us take in that information. So like it's fun to read a story and we get the spiritual lessons along the way. So thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your story with us today here on the Miracle of Healing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for the invitation.
And thanks all of you guys who were listening to us. If you want to find me, you can find me at lisacampion.com. I work with psychics, healers, and empaths, helping them really polish up their gifts and step into the world even more, because my mission in life is to train an army of healers to go out there and save the planet. And that's what we're doing on the Miracle of Healing, where we are saving the planet one person at a time right here on the Empowered channel.